Hi, I'm Amanda Morgan, and this is Not Just Cute, the podcast, where we discuss all kinds of topics to help bridge the gap that exists between what we know and what we do in early childhood education. We're starting conversations with academics, authors, decision makers, educators, and parents so that together we can improve the quality of early childhood education, while at the same time protecting and respecting the childhood experience. It is absolutely a privilege for me to work with early childhood organizations around this country. I've met incredibly talented and devoted professionals doing amazing things for children and families every day. I love hearing the different stories about what drives people to do this important work. Recently, I was able to spend some time getting to know one organization with a particularly inspiring story. Being with them and listening to them talk about their work and their vision literally gave me goosebumps. It's giving me goosebumps right now. I knew that I had to share what they were doing with you. Childcare Resources of Indian River in Vero Beach, Florida, began with 3 tenacious educators going out of their way to create something better for 25 children. Today, the ripple effect of their efforts has grown into something that impacts 3,000 children and still growing. In this episode, I'm talking with Childcare Resources Executive Director Shannon McGuire Bowman, as well as the director of the school that has grown out of that early program, Tara Beard. They're showing how one simple idea has grown into a robust community effort to serve children and families who would likely otherwise slip through the cracks. Before we jump in, a quick reminder that this is a fantastic time to start sharing your Why We Play letters. These letters will help you jumpstart important conversations in your learning community about the importance and power of play in your early childhood setting. I've been so excited to talk with people from all over the United States as well as Canada and to hear ways that they're using these letters to help others around them understand more about why play matters for young learners. People don't value what they don't understand. I've said it a million times and I'll say it a million more. People simply don't value what they don't understand. So let's help them understand play. If that's what you want to do, then the Why We Play letters were created just for you. Learn more and grab a free sample letter at notjustcute.com/whyweplay. Childcare Resources of Indian River is doing amazing things through what has grown into a very comprehensive program. But it began and continues to grow because people have simply been willing to take each next step forward. I hope this interview helps you to see one small next step you might be able to move toward in your own program or community. You can find this episode's show notes, which will be full of links and tidbits related to this episode, at notjustcute.com/podcast/episode 53. If you're wondering how to take that next leap towards your vision of building a coalition for early childhood in your community, or if you just want to take one small step forward to better serve children and their families, this is the episode for you. Let's jump in. Well, Tara and Shannon, thank you so much for meeting with me. This is the first time that I've had 2 guests at the same time. I'm excited for it.
Well, thank you so much for having us. Yeah, we're excited.
I thought that we could jump in getting to know a little bit about what you do, and we'll give people a chance to hear each of your voices so they can hear the difference as well. But I thought that we could start in by hearing from both of you about the mission of Childcare Resources of Indian River and the roles that each of you have, because they very much work together, but they are very different roles.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start off. This is Shannon, and I am the Executive Director for Childcare Resources of Indian River. I am responsible for overseeing all operations for the organization. We have a model childcare center for children ages 6 weeks to 5 years old. And then we have a robust outreach program where we are working with early childhood educators here in our community. So I oversee that portion of the staffing and operations for that. I work closely with our board of directors who govern and guide the work that we do here in Indian River County.
And this is Tara. So I'm responsible for our child care center, and we're NACCE, National Association for the Education of Young Children. Our NACCE accredited center, we have roughly 111 children, as Shannon said, from 6 weeks to 5 years old, that pre-kindergarten classroom, and everything that is involved with a really comprehensive program.
Yeah. So it sounds like, Shannon, if I have it right in my brain, yours kind of covers the more executive aspects, the big pictures, the funding, the large things. And then Tara, not that they're completely separate, because you're going to work in with that to make those decisions and have that vision, but to give you, as a person who is specifically focused on how that childcare piece works and is done well, so you can put all your attention on running a whole school.
Yeah.
And so for people to understand, here are these two parts from a very big program. What is the purpose and the goal of that large program altogether of childcare resources? What is it that you're trying to do for the community in Indian River?
Well, the mission of childcare resources is to elevate and promote high quality early childhood education in our community. And we also focus on families who are economically challenged. So that's the mission for the organization. And the vision is that we believe that all children can benefit from a high quality learning experience. And we very much know there's a big difference between preschool and quality preschool. And that's one of part of our mission is really to help educate the community of the importance of high quality early childhood education.
And that really struck me as I feel really fortunate that I was able to come visit you several times and be a tiny part of this work that you're doing and to see how you're doing that work. And it was so exciting for me to see it. And just what you spoke to, that this commitment to quality, to be able to come into your program and see that it wasn't just, okay, we see that early childhood education is helpful for people, and so we're going to do it and check the box, but that you're really committed to all of those details that make it a quality program, and really paying attention to all of those intricate pieces that are what really serve families and make it quality. And like I said, I was just really blown away to be able to tour your facility, the school, Tara, to see all these pieces that go to making a high quality school, and then to hear about this larger piece of helping within your community and not just focusing on providing care through your school, but in providing professional development support. And that feels like too small of a term, because what you've built there is really a coalition and a community of educators, and building up that whole profession in your area and that commitment to that. And as I saw all of these pieces, really what gave me goosebumps was seeing, like I said, there are all these little pieces that we so often hear, if only we could do this for kids, if only we could put this into place, if only we had this one other thing. And it really felt like you're hitting on or moving towards all of those things. It was really an ideal setting. And as I've said before, as much as that was really inspiring to see how many pieces and how many details and how much impact it's having in your community, I've also been struck, as I've gone back to look at your history, that it didn't start that way. And I find that equally inspiring, that it started from something really quite simple. And so I was hoping, Shannon, if you could tell us a little bit about the history of where this program started, because 25 to 30 years ago, you weren't hitting all of these programs right out of the gate. And I think it's important for us to hear how things can start small with a big vision and really grow.
Right. Well, we were really fortunate because our organization was founded in 1994 by three early childhood educators who truly understood what high quality early childhood education is and what you need in order to create that. And so they also realized that there were a lot of families in our community who didn't qualify for any state or federal childcare subsidy because they made just a little bit too much money, but they were also unable to afford the full tuition rate at a high quality, nationally accredited childcare center. So that's really how we began. And we still to this day focus on those hardworking families and that don't qualify for any state or federal funding. There's a United Way study who came up with an acronym, ALICE, Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. So our families are working full time and to be qualified for our program. So from 1994 till about 2010, the organization qualified families into childcare resources program, and then we helped place them at nationally accredited childcare centers throughout Indian River County. And we worked with those childcare centers. We still work with those childcare centers today. In 2010, the organization decided to open up our own school. So they leased some space in a local church. And we, at about 3,500 square feet, and we started our own school, which had the majority of the 53 spots were for infants and toddlers, because there's not a lot of places in our community that offer infants and toddler care. I joined the organization in 2012, and we were in year 2 of a 5-year lease, and our lease was not going to be renewed. So our board of directors needed to make a decision if we were going to, go find another 3,000-4,000 square feet somewhere, or if we were going to take a big leap and try to do something really special in our community. So we decided to take the big leap, and we raised about $2.3 million to build out the school that we have today, which is about 15,000 square feet. And as Tara said, we have 111
Yeah.
Wow.
Today. We have 158 children total in our program this year, because we still do work with those high quality centers throughout our county, so that we can help folks North County and South Central County also. So we built out this space, and really the vision of our school was really to become this hub for high quality early childhood education, because what childcare resources have been doing and what the school had really becoming was really truly a model for what quality could look like. And our board of directors over the years and our founders really pushed back when people came forward and said, you're just spending too much per child.
Mm-hmm.
You really can do this less, and you can really, put more children in that classroom and have a better bottom line. And they really pushed back on that, because they knew and truly believed in the NACCE standards and the values and the importance of those student-teacher quality interactions. Again, I came in 2012. We built out our new school in 2015. And what I really saw was just this amazing program, and we always have a very large waiting list of 200 to 300 children at a time. And really wanting to find unique ways where we could, share the secret sauce of what we're doing at Childcare Resources with the rest of the community. So we started with some professional development. At Childcare Resources, we require that all of our teachers have 24 hours of professional development each year. And we were having a hard time finding quality professional development. So we were able to find some grant funding, and we now go out and look all around the country for early childhood education experts like Amanda Morgan, and we and we bring them in from all over the country, and we put on these workshops 3 or 4 times a year. And the workshops are usually on a Saturday, and they are about 6 hours long. And we open up to anyone who is educator of young children in our community. And we usually have 125 to 200 people with us, depending or not if we're in a pandemic or or if we're on Zoom. And these most of the teachers who are in attendance are there on their own accord. They're not being paid by their employer. They're there because they really are wanting that high quality professional development experience. So we were providing that to our teachers, and we decided throughout the whole county, and we really wanted to stack on that. So we took another step forward, and we started a coaching program. So we hired 2 coaches for our staff, 1 full-time, 1 part-time coach.
And they're amazing.
Yes, they are amazing. And these are early childhood professionals who had years in the field and who are extremely passionate about early childhood education. And their job is to go to any childcare center in our community who asks them to attend, and they help teachers implement the strategies that are introduced at our professional development workshops, because we all know you can go to the workshop on Saturday and then try to implement these strategies on Monday. And it's kind of, it's challenging. So they're really there to help offer that support. And they're also available to any teacher, where a director could approach us and say, they have a teacher who's young, who needs mentoring, or someone needs help with curriculum development, or, environment setup, anything like that. So they're available to any of the childcare centers in our community, which is just a an invaluable
Mm-hmm.
resource for our community. So, we've been continuing that, and that's been growing. And then we took another step forward, and we created a relationship with with Indian River State College, which is the state college closest to us here in our community. And we worked with them to come up with a way for early educators to be able to fast track their staff credential. Here at Child Care Resources, anyone that works over on our in the school section of our program must have their staff credential, and that's for college classes. And if someone comes to us and they don't have that staff credential, we give them a year to earn it. And we were finding that many of the teachers were having a really difficult time earning it within a year. So we worked with the college. We received a grant locally to pilot a program where you could fast track this degree in 4 college classes in 1 semester on our campus. So we do this in a cohort learning style. So there's about 12 or 13 early educators who come together. They would work all day, and then they would come here to Child Care Resources for 11 hours a week for 16 weeks. And they would fast track that and earn their staff credential in 1 semester. And we have amazing staff that work very closely with these educators. They help them with everything from registering for college to we host study halls, homework. They have good snacks on test day.
Always important.
Yeah, just anything, just really wrapping their arms around these adult students and helping them navigate pursuing their education. We estimate there's about 575 early childhood educators in our community, and pre-COVID we had 110 educators go through this fast track staff credential. So it's really exciting for us. And what was even more exciting, we were hearing feedback from a good percentage of these students that they wanted to continue their education. So we were lucky enough to be able to secure another grant to hire a little more staff. And so we take another step forward, and now we are helping early educators, continue to earn those staff credentials, but then also other credentials like director credentials and things like that. But additionally, associate's degrees in early childhood education, bachelor's degrees in early childhood education, and even a master's degree in early childhood education, and helping these students utilize a state scholarship that pays for about 80% of their tuition. And if that's not viable for the student, we're just really finding any way to help them, reach their goal and to continue their education, just so that they have more tools in their toolbox when they go into their classrooms, that they really are able to meet the needs and reach every single child in their classroom, because we know they're all unique and they're all at a different place. And a really talented early educator can make a huge difference in a child's life for the rest of their life.
So true. There's so many amazing pieces in that. And it still gives me goosebumps to hear you talk about all the things that you're doing, and the way, like you said, that you really have wrapped your arms around this whole profession in your community. And I love that it starts with 3 women who, do you know how many children that first year that they were able to help get spots?
Yeah, the first year there were 25 children in the program. So again, today we have 158 in our childcare program, but our outreach programming now is reaching about 3,000 children in Indian River County through that outreach programming and our childcare program.
And that's so amazing to me that they could take, we're going to find a way to help 25 children, and we're going to start there and build something that's going to make a difference and that will ripple through from those 25 children. But then, like you said, each time we took another step, and realizing we can help 25 children with this program, but we can eventually help thousands of children by building the profession, by reaching out and building a coalition within our community, and not just serving them through growing our school, which is amazing, but by growing professionals and reaching out across to other people and to help them better serve children as well. I just think it's amazing what you have built. And I think it's an amazing reminder to see that simple beginning. And then it's just taking the next step and the next step and the next step. That if those 3 women had sat down and tried to build all the things that you have now, it would have been overwhelming. But to start with whatever that next step is and build the next thing, I think is so inspiring, really amazing. I'm wondering, Tara, if it feels like in your school, one of the things that makes your school and the whole program really so effective is that it felt to me like you were really focused on who you are serving. You know your families, you know your community, and that the way that you've structured your school and your program, it seems like you're structured in a way that lets you be very responsive, very agile, and able to create something that really meets the people that you're serving rather than a hypothetical idea. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about who these families are that you're serving, what you know about them, and how knowing that helps you make specific decisions for your school so that you can serve them best.
Right. And I think how the organization has developed is very similar to how the school has developed. We started out very small, and it was that next step that was needed. So getting to know the families and what they've needed. So in addition to what Shannon talked about, that ALICE population, additionally, we have a collaborative grant as well, that a certain number of children and families who are experiencing homelessness also attend our school. So over time, we knew, when it all started, we are very focused on the classroom, the child. And as a classroom teacher, you can work hard all day long and have a profound effect. But unless you're partnering with those parents, that can be a challenge for everybody involved. So we knew we needed to wrap our arms around the parents. So through that, it shaped how we do parent interactions, how we engage them. We knew very quickly that sort of that old school, the parents are doing one thing. If we're doing an engagement program while the children are somewhere else, that wasn't as effective. So we're very intentional in making sure that whatever we do involves the parents and the children at the same time. We knew that over time, especially with COVID, we were facing a lot of issues that we hadn't dealt with before. So it was looking at those issues. And honestly, over COVID, we became closer with our families because people were not entering the school anymore. We were walking out to greet parents. And so we were able to get especially close with our families. What's going on with you today? How can we help you? And that was a natural progression with our families as well, just taking the time. And then we're staffed in a variety of ways. We knew that it wasn't just the classroom teachers. We went beyond that. We have an entire wellness department, which you were able to meet when you came. So we have a registered nurse on staff. So she does a comprehensive intake when she meets the families. We have a case manager on staff now, so she can help meet the needs of our families, and it becomes very holistic. One of the neat things we did was also add a child life specialist to our staff. And she can work with a lot of our families and children who have gone through a traumatic experience and helping them work on resiliency. So we've really wrapped everything up. It wasn't just, does the child have what they need in the classroom, but does the family have what they need? So we've really wrapped our arms around that over time.
And I loved seeing all of those little pieces. Like you said, you brought in all those specialists. You brought in a therapy room recently and
absolutely
bringing in all of those things to address individual needs that you were seeing. And I love that, we talk so often in early childhood education about addressing the whole child. And like you said, not just how do we teach them in the classroom, but that also means how do we address a past trauma? How do we address family issues? How do we support their family? And I love that you've taken not just a whole child perspective, but it really seems like the entire program is focusing not just on the whole child, but the whole family and the whole community, and bringing the community into this program to see how much excitement and support and passion was in your entire community, not just those being served in the community, but the entire community, right. I think has come through your efforts to recognize the work that you're doing and wanting to be a part of that and supporting that. I wonder if you could give a few examples of some of these connections you've built either with families or with community members, respecting privacy, of course, but just generally how some of these examples of how building connections has helped your program and why that matters in the way that you're able to serve your families and your communities.
I I think so in sort of addressing this question in the last one, but one of the best things we've done as well is we've created individual care plans sort of for each family. And that really allows us to look at what's going on. It addresses their home life, is this a housing issue? Is this job and a joblessness? Is this food insecurity? Is this a mental health issue? Is it just I'm having a bad day issue? So in particular, we had a very good relationship. We know our children very well. We're greeting every parent, every child walking through. We had a couple children who were struggling, having and typically are very happy little ones coming through our front door. Mom is usually very happy, waving hello. We noticed the teachers were the first ones to notice. So this will actually be a good example of how it went teacher, staff, and then so on. But the teachers came to us and said, the girls are having a really hard time. We're not really sure what's going on. They're becoming distressed when it's time to go home. This is not typical behavior for them. They're a little more withdrawn. So those teachers came to me. I went in, did a classroom observation, sort of noticed. We also noticed during drop off that mom did not seem quite herself as well. So I touched base with our director of wellness and early intervention, who's a registered nurse. So we talked about it. Then we started reaching out to mom, and it took a few tries. So that was also an indicator for us. This is a very responsive parent who is not promptly returning. So we knew there was some kind of crisis going on. So after a few days, we were able to get mom to call us back. And it did turn out that there was a divorce happening. Some domestic violence had happened. So we were able to wrap our arms around mom. And through that, we connected her with our case manager. In addition, mom was also given a deadline by her significant other to leave the house with the children within a week. So we were dealing with domestic violence, potential homelessness. She was scared she was going to lose her job. There was food insecurity. So it was everything. This huge thing all of a sudden. So the case manager jumps into action. She is able to go to a local subsidized housing apartment complex, and they were able to go there together that day. They were able to secure housing for the weekend. It was just meant to be, because that can usually be really challenging. So mom had that support and that partner. Within our community, we have a grant with the Mental Health Association. We were able to do a referral for mom to see someone and speak with someone because she was obviously overwhelmed. We have another collaborative engagement with a program called Types in Teens, and they do infant mental health and early childhood mental health. So both of the girls were able to get referrals, and they came in and talked to them. Our board of directors got involved. We were able to find, they were struggling to get things like couches, just all the stuff you need when you move into a home that she was not in a position to get. So we're able to do that. The teachers got involved. So it was really holistic in the way that we wrapped our arms around the family. And it all started with that connection and those relationships, the teachers knowing something was off. The administrators noticing, myself and everyone else, like mom is not her normal self and is not as communicative. So it was those little things. We were able to keep the girls enrolled in school. They now have stable housing. Mom was able to keep her job. So it was just very holistic. And we were able to wrap the significant other in as well, because he's still an important part of their family and he's still engaged in the girls' lives. So we were able to offer supports to him as well. So really that is how it kind of came full circle.
I think that's such an amazing example of so many things. First of all, just the curiosity to look at the next thing, that sometimes when we see challenging behaviors, maybe we take it personally or we project it just on that child, if they could just straighten up, and instead being curious and saying, this isn't normal. What else can we look at, and look at the next thing and be really curious about it. I just think, if that had been ignored, all the things that you were able to do, and if you took all of those things away, what a different outcome would have been for this family and for these girls. But I think it's also a great example of, like you said, the holistic nature of what you've built, that by doing the next thing and the next thing and then the next thing, you've built so many layers of support to be able to have a full team, a full community that comes in to help meet needs and to bring support. I know sometimes I'll hear from teachers or directors who are saying, here's this really challenging issue. How do we handle it? And it's really hard to say, I feel like saying, well, you shouldn't have to handle it by yourself, right? Ideally, you've built these connections and done the work to build that coalition that can be a team that's already put together. Sometimes we have to find those people on the fly, but to have that experience and build that so that we know that it's not just for you to address. It's not just for this mom to address on her own, but that there are so many people that will surround this family and say, we're here to support you and help you. And here are so many different elements where each place can lend you that support and help you with that next step that you need. And what a beautiful example that is for that family and for countless other families that are each having whatever unique need that they have, that you've built something that connects them to people who can help them meet that need. And it's such an amazing holistic view that is so much more effective, that within that, we can also have children who have a better early childhood education foundation. They're doing the learning parts, but that all of that academic piece is on this foundation of everything else. There's no learning that's going to happen if these children don't get all of that support in that crisis situation. And so how all of those pieces fit together, it's really, really inspiring what you're doing.
Thank you.
I think that the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and we've hit on it a little bit, but I want to dig into a little bit more, is this way in your community outreach, the way that you've supported and helped to grow an entire team of educators in your community to have this exponential impact. That maybe not every program is where your program is right now, but that you are there to be a support and a model to help them to grow as well. And as you mentioned before, that it is more than just, hey, we're doing professional development on Saturday. I was really struck, first of all, in the way that you structured it, that it was different than most other trainings I've done. I'll have to tell you that I could tell how much intention was put into this to get your coaches on board and to connect. We had multiple trainings that were connected and there was support in between. And that as I came, so seeing just that background of seeing how intentional it was and consistent and having that piece. But then when I actually came and saw these educators, you could tell from what you could see in the room that you have built something special, that there is not just a place where people show up and come to professional development, but that there was a community that knew each other, that was connected with each other, that supported each other. And to see your coaches run around the room and hugging each other and connecting with all of these teachers that they have been working with, and to hear people talk about the programs, their next thing that they're building and growing, whether it's personally in their profession or in their programs, that they're trying to follow this model. And I love this concept that you have of just helping to raise the tide in your entire community along with you in your own program. I wondered, Shannon, if you could tell about some of those things that your community is doing, and you've hit on several of these things, but if there's anything else that has been key to you in helping to build a more qualified pool of professionals throughout your community.
Yeah, I think that we have, we as we meet early childhood educators, what I'm always struck by is their passion and their love for the children in their classroom, and how much they care. And just like anything, you don't know what you don't know. And, we're finding that many early educators, are coming to the profession interested in being an early childhood education teacher, but not really receiving the training or understanding what it really is. But I think that you meet educators who've been in the field for a long time and maybe haven't had formal training, but they have this amazing wisdom. And to be able to bring together the research and the best practice information, and then couple it with the wisdom of these amazing early educators who've had their boots on the ground for years, I think really creates something special. And so when we create these professional developments, we really do try to create opportunities for interaction and for people to be inspired and to be around each other. And it really has become our workshops really have become a place for this sector to have this collegial sharing of knowledge, which I think was really missing before. There may have been, like I said, professional developments, here or there, but they were just, come, sit, listen, get some information, have some coffee, and you go on with your day. And we really wanted to make it intentionally more than that. We have a saying here at Child Care Resources that professional development without technical assistance is just a meeting, and we're not interested in just having a meeting. And really, trying to keep a pulse on this community's educators of what they're looking for. So every summer, our director of outreach goes around and does a survey to about 30 or 40 different directors in our community. There's about 55 child care center organizations in our community, and just really taking their pulse. What are your needs? What are your concerns? What is your staff missing? What would you be looking for? And then we really try to go out and find it and bring it here. And we try to, again, bring the best and offer the educators just this amazing opportunity to connect and to learn.
I think too, we also have a directors, almost like a collaborative that Monica has helped organize, our outreach director. And so that has allowed me as a director, she'll invite all the directors of early childhood centers in town. And we come together quarterly. And that has been amazing. I can tell you throughout COVID, it was amazing because none of us really knew what we were doing. And everything was changing sometimes by the hour. So we were able to do things as simple as, what does the letter to your parents look like? How are you dealing with parents who may get upset about masks? Are you letting people in the room? We've also had conversations about, there's definitely a staffing shortage and a hiring crisis, especially in this field. I mean, I know it's everywhere, but it can be a challenge for us right now. Some places are shutting down classrooms because of staffing. So we've been able to brainstorm, what can we do? Should we create a pool of substitutes that all of us as educators can tap into? So they're really brainstorming sessions that have been just amazing for me. And I know that it's been helpful to other educators as well. We've talked fine motor. We've, just everything that we're seeing that affects us as directors that are sometimes different than the classroom.
Yeah. And I think that collaborative, that word that you used, I think encompasses so much of it. In looking at your approach to professional development, it's not just a check the box or a top down, but it's a very collaborative community building model. And I thought that was so inspiring. You mentioned, Shannon, that I love that quote that you said, that professional development without technical assistance is just a meeting, and we want more than just a meeting, right? So can you tell a little bit about what is technical assistance? What does that look like?
Yep, absolutely. So what we generally do is when we invite a presenter to come here to our community, is our staff works with that presenter about, what do you think some of the challenges the teachers may have post your workshop, implementing some of these strategies, and then really creating a technical assistance plan. And sometimes that's purchasing of manipulatives or books, or and sometimes it's just our coaches showing up to the school. So all the schools that attend our professional developments, our coaches contact the directors and schedule a time for them to come. And sometimes they're just talking through that workshop and saying, and on different aspects, and just having conversations. Other times there's materials that are brought to the school to help them implement those strategies in an easier way that, again, can seem really big and challenging, but really the coaches are there to hold hands, to model best practice, and to really demonstrate what we hoped they would learn during the workshop, and how they can incorporate that in their classroom. And it might look a little different than a different classroom in a different school. And really, we want them to know that that's okay.
Yeah. And I love that collaborative piece with those coaches, to be able to talk with them before and after and in between, to know what is it that these teachers need. Let's make sure that first of all, that this training is really addressing what you're seeing going on in the classroom already, and getting some back and forth with them of how to make sure that my training was more effective. I appreciated that as a presenter. And then knowing that they would be able to follow up with, that we were on board with each other on kind of, here are our main points that we're looking at, and here's where it would look, what we would look for in implementation, and having that collaborative experience with those coaches. So that it was exciting for me to know as well that this won't be just a meeting. This is something that's going to be supported, and that's going to actually implement some degree of change and support for these classrooms, for these teachers, for these children and these families. I think it's a fantastic model that seems like it should be really obvious, but I don't think it is. Well, as we round up, coming here to the end, I want to hear a little bit about what your dreams are for the future, as you have talked about what you've built both in the school and in the program at large, and that each thing has grown out of the next step and the next step. And I'm curious, both for the school and for the program at large, what is the next step, whether it's right on the horizon or it's kind of the big dream vision? Either way, I'm curious from both of you.
Well, I'll talk from the organizational standpoint. I'm currently working with our board of directors on determining a 10-year strategic direction for the organization. And, we really, we have this amazing model. We have this amazing school. We have this amazing outreach program, and we believe it really works and it's really making a difference. So we're evaluating what that means and what makes sense for the next step to share it beyond Indian River County, perhaps. So we're really dreaming there with what those next steps will be. So I'm excited. Over the next couple months, we're going to, develop a few next steps for us to really develop that plan for the organization, which I think is really exciting, and it's really amazing work. And I'm grateful that we have this fantastic board of directors who are really brave and really have a little bit of an appetite for risk to be able to explore this. And I know that I would just like to explore more ways for us to continue taking these very logical steps forward to help more early childhood educators in our community and perhaps beyond really understand how important they are, to understand that early childhood truly is this unrepeatable opportunity that we have, and we need to leverage it. We just need to leverage it all across the board with our children, with our families, with their caregivers, and really build a strong connection to kindergarten. And so that's what I think is on the horizon for us. And I can't wait to figure out whatever that is.
And I think for the school, it's always morphing into something interesting because we're adapting and learning what everybody needs. But one of my biggest focuses is, I think, just continuing to wrap our arms around the whole family and really engaging the parents more and what that means. From the teacher's perspective, how are they doing it? How am I wrapping my arms around my teachers, who are the backbone of what I do? Our school is nothing without them. So what do we need to do for them? And how are we wrapping our arms around the parents and the teachers and the children? Because there isn't one without the other. There just isn't.
Yeah. So. And I think it's important to have those kinds of just a guiding focus. Because sometimes you can't say my 10-year plan for serving these children who are not in my classroom yet, right? Families I haven't met. And that can be more of those are structural goals. But when you get into that, those smaller pieces, getting down onto that more intimate level, that it really is more of a focus that I will wrap my arms around these specific people. And as those people change, what that looks like is going to change. And I think it's an important focus to have. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, before we let you go, the last thing I wanted to ask was if you have any tips for people who would like to build more of a coalition in their community, that maybe feel like I have this great little school or I have this great vision, but I'm trying to do everything all by myself. And looking at you and hearing from you, we see how much power comes in building a coalition and building up your community. And so I wonder if you have some tips on some of those first steps that people can take if they're in this position where they want to grow and they want to be more connected in more of a coalition in their community. What are some of those tips that you would share for them?
I would think that people would be maybe a little bit surprised how, when you really zoom out, how especially in early education, well, in our community, everybody was in a silo. Everybody was in their walls trying to do everything on their own. And just a couple simple phone calls or inviting for some coffees and some small group conversation really blossomed into everything that we're doing today. And really realizing that, we didn't have to keep, secrets of what we're doing here and not share it. We just want to be the best school. We're not going to share our knowledge with anyone else, but really opening that up. And I mean, we have learned so much from the other schools in our community and from the other educators. And there's just so much to learn from each other, and really understanding the brilliance that everyone can bring together and that special tapestry that you can just build by collaboration. Sometimes it takes some time. And I think that's the other thing I would say is you've got to be a little bit patient with this. This doesn't happen overnight, but it really starts with the small things, a cup of coffee, conversation, and just, learning to trust each other.
Yeah. And I would say from my perspective too, it's scary at first to reach out to someone. It's scary to talk about some of the challenges you face, because we all face challenges. We all make mistakes. We are all fallible, and you have to be brave. So I don't know if that's the most important piece right there, is just be brave. Don't be shy. We're all facing the same issues, and being brave enough to reach out to just one person, and that person reaches out to just one more person. I think just that concept of being brave and knowing that we can all grow and learn from each other is so important.
Yeah, and I think this sector, the early education sector, I've never met a more caring group of people in my life, and really everyone is so focused on the child, and that makes it a little bit easier when we're all focusing on the children. And you can kind of, like, the egos can kind of fall away a little bit more when we really just, we're doing this for the children.
Yeah. Oh, I think you encapsulated so much just in those few tips that are, like you said, the simple things, but really, if we can just get those simple things right, we can change so much. So thank you so much for being here today, but also just the way that you're serving your community, for the impact that it has in your community, but for the model and the example that you are to so many, to be able to do the next step as well, and to get a little bit closer to building something that serves more and makes more of a difference in their community. So thank you for that example and for your service. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again for listening to Not Just Cute, the podcast. You can find show notes at notjustcute.com/podcast/episode 54. There you'll find links to some of the research we discussed today, as well as other fascinating tidbits I know you'll love. You can also hit up the show notes for a link to the Why We Play letters. Head to notjustcute.com/podcast/episode 54, or go straight to notjustcute.com/whyweplay to get signed up and download your free sample letter. I'm Amanda Morgan. You can read more on my blog and sign up for the Not Just Cute newsletter at notjustcute.com. You can also stay tuned for social media updates on Instagram by following me at Amanda_NotJustCute. Thanks for listening today, and as always, thank you for standing up for children and for childhood.